Back with Tony Robbins. President Obama's vowing to jumpstart the economy and create more jobs in his second term. But right now, millions of Americans are still out of work. And my next guest knows exactly how they feel. Mike Melio is a business owner who lost everything in 2008, and I mean everything. Now he's overcome that financial ruin and runs two businesses with revenues of, wait for it, $50 million. And Mike Melio joins me now. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's been a roller coaster ride. You've known Tony for 17 years, and you've been up and down in that period. Tell me quickly the journey you've been on.
Yeah, I started off coming from a very challenging background, single mother, raised by a single mother, had no education, and really no hope. And what I always say, I was lucky that I was put in front of an icon of empowerment.
No, he is. I mean, every time I interview him, I feel empowered.
It's true. And you know what he is an incredible educator. And by the grace of the universe, I was able to fall in the lap of this educator, and he helped get me out of that place where I was, where there really was no hope.
He was homeless at the time. But what I love about Mike's story is that Mike didn't just help himself. He built a small business to start with, and one of the young women that worked for him was addicted to meth, is that right?
Methamphetamine.
Why don't you share with them the story and how you ended up in your new business?
Yeah, a young woman had come to work for me a number of years ago, and you could tell that something was wrong. And she was addicted to methamphetamine. She was a daily user of ecstasy, and I got her involved in Mr. Robbins' program. Within 30 days, she was completely off drugs. And it turned out that her father, her dad, was incredibly successful in the metal recycling business. And I got a call from him shortly thereafter that just said, anybody who has this kind of influence over other human beings, we need to do a business deal together. And he put up $500,000 for me to start my company. He co-signed for a ton of equipment. He taught me the business. 7 months later, he allowed me to buy him out. And years later, then I just continued to grow and grow and grow.
Till 2008.
Yeah, till 2008.
So you built up this $30 million business, and then you literally almost lost it overnight in the big crash of 08.
It was interesting. You know, 4 months before the crash, Tony calls me and says, Mike, you need to prepare. And as everyone in the country kept saying, you know, we're strong. The economists were saying, we are strong. And I didn't listen to them. And, you know, I should have listened to him.
Why wouldn't you listen to Tony Robbins?
Things were going great. Things were growing great.
But that was mainly thanks to him.
Yeah, absolutely true.
No,
absolutely true.
He did it.
And I'll tell you, overnight, as you know, the economy collapses. The metal business completely collapses.
And when that happened to you, and you having gone from literally nothing, you're a homeless guy, to a $30 million business, and then it all disappears. What's that like for you?
Yeah, I didn't care about losing the material possessions. I had a 3-year-old son at the time. He's now 7. The only thing that was going through my mind was, how do I face my son? From the day that he came home from the hospital, I was determined that he was not going to grow up in the same environment that I did. And all I wanted to do was be able to have my little boy sit on my lap when he was old enough and say, you know what, Enzo, there's nothing that you can't do. You can become anything. I don't want my boy to look up at me and say, Daddy, you know, if that's so true, how come you haven't done it? And that's what was crushing my heart. I just could not fail and come up with an excuse for this little boy.
Tony, I mean, can anybody be like this, or do you have to have a little bit of what I detect here, which is that ferocity of spirit?
I think ferocity of spirit is critical for everybody, but we all have it. It's like a muscle.
Do we all have it?
Yeah, we do. Courage unused, though, becomes weaker. You know, determination unused gets smaller. Passion unexpressed gets smaller. It's like any muscle, the more you use it. And he's been using it for years. You know, his son, though, here's the other thing. He had a reason larger than himself. You see the pattern in all the people that have overcome. He wanted to do for his son. At the time, he was told me about his worried about all his employees, and he really cares about his people. But here's the secret, though. You have to make that shift where it's no longer an excuse. If you give yourself an excuse, humans will take it. If you're going to take the island, you burn the boats. And he burned the boats and said, I'm going to find the answer. First, he shifted his psychology, came to my business mastery program, and then he got the skills. Because like I said earlier, it's not just confidence. You got to have skill, and he had both, and he found the way. Share them what you did.
Yeah, after that particular business mastery program, again, as Tony says, 80% of it is psychology, and then 20% of it is mechanics or the strategies. But unless you get the psychology down, the mechanics don't matter. And I can tell you from that day in November of 2008 where I made that decision that I was not going to fail, and I kissed my lady and said, I'm going back to work. And we went out there and I learned how to export. And when there was no market for steel in the United States, I was able to export to several different companies or several different countries. And we took off from there. We continued to grow. And it was just, again, it's about a mindset. It's about having a level of pride. For me, it was coming from where I come from. The Melio name didn't mean a whole heck of a lot. And I was determined to change that because it's something of what I call generational influence. I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for my son.
And is that good advice, Tony, there are millions and millions of Americans out of work at the moment.
Yes.
Many suffering very hurt pride, never mind anything else,
yes.
and real financial hardship. Is that a good focus to look at children, to look at other things and say, you know what, stop feeling sorry for myself. It's for him, for her, it's for that.
I think what's really beautiful about most human beings is we'll do more for others we love than we'll ever do for ourselves. And motive does matter. If you're just trying to do something for yourself, you only get a certain level of insight. If you're trying to do it for your family or your community or the world, you get a different level of skill and insight. But it also comes to having a belief. You know, Mike got the belief out of Business Mastery that money is still changing hands. I need to find out where to go get that to add value to people's lives. Not how do I get it, how do I add value, and where is that value available to
them? Mike, what do you say to these people suffering in America right now?
I got to tell you, Tony is absolutely right. We need to take the focus off of ourselves. And we need to stop feeling sorry about ourselves. It's about serving humanity. It's about serving people. It's all about service. And we have just got to get out there. Again, Tony talked about earlier about retooling. It's about learning new skills. When I talked about finding an icon of empowerment, whether it's Anthony Robbins, whether it's someone like Oprah Winfrey, whether it's about a school or a university, you've got to get in there and you've got to learn the new skills. And then you've got to get out there and you have got to perform by serving humanity. It isn't about me. It isn't about me making money or a dollar amount. It's about protecting the people that I love, the people that I care about. And if you follow that formula, you cannot fail.
And rather like with what I said earlier about bitterness and anger and resentment, self-pity is also a complete waste of time and energy. I mean, it's perfectly understandable why people feel it, but actually all those emotions are just barriers to getting back on your feet, aren't they?
That's correct. And all emotions serve, right? Anger, frustration, it's all valuable, but not if you live there. All those emotions that create pain, the reason they create pain is they're designed to get you to change, to do something. If you just sit and live in the emotion and you don't do anything, then the pain just gets deeper and deeper, and then it becomes your groove in your grave. If you shift those emotional states, which is what we teach people how to do, really physically, not some fake positive thinking, but with a real strategy, a real action plan, and where your focus is, how do I add value? That's all business is. Add more value than anybody else does, and you'll have a chance to win. And that's what he's done.
Great story. Mike, a great inspiration.
Thank you.
Good to meet you.
My pleasure.
Coming next, Tony gives you 5 ways to immediately change your life.